Good day. Congratulations because now we are in the half of our school year. We will proceed now in quarter number 3, module number 1, and it's all about differentiating bias from prejudice. So later we will identify the differences between those two terms. And we will start answering on page number 2. So before we start, what we need to know. This module encourages you to differentiate bias from prejudice. At the end of this module, you're expected to identify bias and prejudice from the text read, react to bias and prejudice from illustration presented, and the last one will be to promote fairness and equality for a bias and prejudice-free community. So what I know. So you will read the given statements carefully and identify if they are bias or prejudice. On your paper, draw a star for a bias and moon for prejudice. Write your answers on a separate sheet of paper. So you will read those 10 statements, then you will just draw star if it's bias, then moon if it is prejudice. So based on what you know, then later, after you answer some activities, we will elaborate, we will define those two important terms we have in this module number 1 for third quarter. And for letter B, read the following situations on your paper. Put a check mark if the situation promotes fairness and equality, and cross if not. Write your answers on a separate sheet of paper. So, it is very easy. Fairness, equality, meaning if it is promoting fairness or there is no judgment easily, or there is enough evidence before judging, there is proper analyzing. If it is promoting fairness and equality, meaning there is no discrimination, there is enough study and analysis before going to conclusion, it will be checked. And if it is immediate judgment without further analyzing the text, the information, then you will put a cross mark. So there are 5 items. So for what's in, we have here the directions. Read a short poem below, then do a literary analysis by completing the task that follows. Write your answers on a separate sheet of paper. So it is entitled Let Me Be Me by Annabel V. Perikin. So you will read those stanzas, and after that, because we tackled last quarter about the literary analysis, how we analyze, how we get and extract lessons from a particular literary text. So choose the correct answers to the given statements below or given elements below. Write your answers on a separate sheet of paper. So there will be, or we have 5 boxes here. So in each box, there are 4 leaves. So the words here, the speaker or the author, mood, point of view, theme, purpose. So you will identify which among the leaves is pertaining to the name of the pot. For example, the name of the pot is speaker or author. You will choose among those leaves. So you will write the best answer pertaining to this on your separate sheet of paper. Mood, what is the mood? Choose among the 4. Point of view, is it first, second, third, or fourth? Then theme, advocacy, contentment, etc. Then the purpose, is it to inspire, persuade, inform, or to argue? So great, you do have a good recollection. Remember, literary analysis gives you a deep connection to literature. Analyzing poem helps us understand and appreciate its form, content, and structure. It gives us a deep connection to the author and recognize his work as an expression of art. So by having literary analysis, we can really identify the meaning, the story behind a text, the lesson, and all of the learnings that we can get from here. So it's very vital to know how to have a literary analysis. So for what's new, amazing, are you excited to read a poem? Before doing that, let us solve this simple task for you. For this part, you need to unlock the meaning of the unfamiliar words. Before you embark on your journey to follow the footprints, always remember the safety protocols this quarantine season. Wear a mask, young detective. Choose the correct meanings of some unfamiliar words from the footprints below and check your answers with the help of a dictionary. Write your answers on a separate sheet of paper. Let the hunt begin. So we have here 6 new words which are unfamiliar. So perspiration, prophecy, chase, intellectuality, solidify, diversity. So we have 2 footprints in each number. So you will just connect and identify the word which is closer to the word in each number. For example, perspiration, is it sweat or beads? Prophecy, prediction or truth? Chase, pursue or lead, and so on. So you will just write the answer on a separate sheet of paper. So excellent job, you young detective. You can now use your newly learned vocabularies to understand the message of the reading text below. So reading text, how can you achieve success in life? What will you feel when you achieve it? So those questions will be helpful before we jump to the poem later on the next page. So what are the processes or what are the tips do you think to achieve success in life, to become successful, to succeed and achieve your goals? So what will you feel after sufferings, after perseverance and determination, hard work? What would you feel after achieving it? So the path in achieving success is never easy. It requires hard work, passion, and a lot of effort. Struggles and obstacles will wear you down, but your determination will make you stronger. When you achieve it, put on a smile because all your hardships are all worthwhile. So in achieving success, we should expect that it will not be easy, that it will require lots of determination, perseverance, and hard work. So we should be patient in achieving our goals because the one who becomes successful is the one who is not giving up. Remember that. So we have here, you will read the poem and complete the task given after the text. So it is entitled Work by Mario D. Divina Jr. So you will read those. So work harder and smarter. Are you now more motivated? Very well. You must not stop here and continue your journey. Challenge yourself to complete the tasks below. So letter A, directions. Based on the poem, how will you describe the author? Choose the 5 positive traits that can help him achieve success. So you will draw a heart on a separate sheet of paper. Then you will put or write 5 traits that we can see here and put it inside the heart if you think that it is describing the author based on the poem you have read. So only 5. And then for letter B, directions. How do you think those positive qualities can help him achieve success? Write a sentence about it. Write your answers on a separate sheet of paper. So the speaker in the poem is, you will just complete this statement. Based on the traits, it will help blah 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 because blah blah blah. So what do you think in your own perception? Why do we need to have those traits in order to achieve our goals? for here, which of the following stanzas show bias and prejudice in our life? Choose by writing stanza number inside the boxes and your reason in the lines. Then support your answer, write your answers on a separate sheet of paper. So bias, when you say bias, it's preference or favoritism. You have favoritism, you are having preference, meaning it's always your choice. It's always your choice, your choice, your choice. Then prejudice, unfair or reasonable opinion. So it's more negative than bias. But because sometimes bias can be positive and negative, while prejudice, negative, with a minimal judgment. So after knowing what stanzas are bias, what stanzas are prejudice, you will identify your reason here. So why do you think those stanzas are bias? Your reason here. Why do you think those stanzas are prejudice? Then you will recite your reason here. So on your activity or answer sheet, you can just write bias, then the numbers of stanza, then your reason, then the next one, prejudice, the numbers of stanza, then the reasons. You don't need to draw or to copy all of this on your answer sheet. And now we will proceed to the lesson proper. So differentiating biases from prejudices. In the previous activity, you were able to identify which stanza contain ideas on bias and prejudice. But what are bias and prejudice? In this part, you have to read and study the given information. So what is bias? Based on the illustration here, we can see that there is imbalance. That bias is a tendency to favor a person or thing without any logical reasoning or thinking. So we have terms a while ago which are unequal or preference or favoritism, meaning you have your choice and it's always your choice despite of considering other options, other choices. So that is bias. You have always your choice. That is your favorite. So we have example of bias here. For me, BTS is the best South Korean boy band and I will buy ticket to their concert tour in the Philippines, though it is expensive. The employer chose Mr. Carlo Arwan as the new manager because he is highly recommended by the mayor. Rochelle favors her cat among their pets because it is a gift from her auntie, Feli, whom she idolizes so much. So those examples have favoritism like this. The author or the subject here having favoritism with the BTS, while the employer chose Mr. Carlo because it is recommended by the mayor, meaning there is somehow preference. It is preferred by the mayor. Therefore, the employer chose Mr. Carlo. Then on the third one, because she really idolizes her auntie Feli, therefore Rochelle favors her cat among their pets. So there is favoritism because of preference, because of choices, or some shallow judgment or some shallow consideration, meaning it is not enough but they are having this option because it's their favorite, it's their preference, or it is a preference from someone they are really idolizing. So are all biases negative? So based on it can be positive, negative thinking. So not all biases are negative. Some can be positive and it serves only as motivation to improve self-esteem and social status. So when we say biases, sometimes we are using biases for us to have good reputation of other people. We are making their names beautiful. So we will use bias. So that is bias. It can be positive or negative. But we should remember that bias is brought by favoritism. It is not a pure fact. It is not pure information which is real. Bias is based from preference of someone because of his or her favoritism, but it is not true to all. That is why it's called bias, meaning it's preference of someone. So we have positive bias here. So I'd rather eat organic vegetables grown in our backyard than those bought from the market because it has no pesticides. The speaker here is being self-conscious about his health. Why positive bias? Because it is showing the subject's preference about what vegetables should be eaten. It should be from his or her backyard, not from the market, because it is his preference. So green is better than all the other colors because it is more relaxing and pleasing to the eyes. The speaker wants relaxation and comfort for himself. So the speaker is showing his favoritism about the color green. So maybe for some people, there are colors pertaining or other colors pertaining to relaxation, but the speaker shows favoritism about color green. So it is positive bias because there is no negative statement about a particular thing. So when going outside, it is safer to use surgical mask than homemade cloth mask. The speaker favors something which can make him feel at ease and safe. So for his satisfaction, for his thinking, for him to be satisfied of his choice, so he will always find reasons why his choice is most or more preferred than other one. So going to the opposite one, last time we have the positive bias, now we will have the negative one. So examples, I choose my best friend as the leader of our class. So this tells that the speaker favors only his best friend and he is unfair toward his other classmates. So the explanation explains itself. So it's very obvious that there is negative bias because there are no considerations about other classmates. Second example, I can be successful living in the city than staying in the province. So favoring a certain place based on what you have heard or learned from others is a sign of negative bias. There are certain factors which can make you successful and it's not only about the place. So if it is not really true to all, so it can fall under negative bias. So use only the most expensive mask to protect yourself from COVID-19 when going outside. So protecting yourself has nothing to do with the most expensive mask. The mask that you wear should be according to specifications recommended by health experts. So here it's very obvious it's negative bias because it's not only the most expensive mask that will protect ourselves from COVID-19, but it can be the surgical mask that we can have or provided by our government. So one produces positive and negative biases depending on how one understands and connects his experiences in his daily life. So after knowing what bias is, now it's time for us to know about prejudice. So when we say prejudice, it is remarkably similar to its Latin root in form and meaning. The Latin prejudicium means judgment in advance, so meaning without enough analyzing, knowing, studying about particular subject, you are giving judgment too early. So that is prejudice. It is a judgment without concrete basis and made from prior knowledge and or previous experience. So when formed without enough thought or knowledge, it becomes unfair and unreasonable. So we can say also that bias can be unfair or unreasonable. But when I say prejudice, you are using your schema, your experiences. For example, you see man with tattoos. So we can think that they are somehow not good. So that is an example of prejudice. So you are giving judgment to all, that you are giving same traits when they don't have. For example, not all men with tattoos are the same, but they are having different traits. which becomes difference between them. So study the following examples. He talks a lot. I think he's very knowledgeable. So we can see prejudice here because of single information that he talks a lot. He jumps to the conclusion with which is he's very knowledgeable, and it is not enough evidence for us to know that he is very knowledgeable. Sometimes someone is talkative but they are not knowledgeable. They are just talking without enough information or proofs and evidences. So John finished a four-year degree in college. I bet he knows how to follow protocols during quarantine. He will be a good example in the community. So it's a prejudice because sometimes we are thinking that all of those people who are graduated from four-year degree in college can be a good example. Sometimes even those people who are not graduated from any four-year degree in college, even they are graduated only under 2-year degree in college, or even they graduated from high school only, they can still follow the protocols because it is not the basis for us. It's not only the basis for us to identify if someone cannot or can follow to the protocol given by the government. So prejudice can be based on a number of factors including social, economic status, race, disability, religion, occupation, or sometimes we are judging someone because of their prejudice. So when we say prejudice, for example, a black person, you are thinking that all black person will be the same. So you are thinking that if this black person is bad, so all of the black people will be bad also. For example, you are thinking that if someone did not graduate from 4-year degree course, will not be competitive. So you will think that all of those people who are not graduated will not be competitive. So we should avoid this prejudice because prejudice simply denotes about how we judge people based on what we know only. But we are not considering what is the real identity behind them or what is the real reason behind them. So we should know it for us to know really the identity of someone before we go to conclusion. So like the literary analysis, before we get and extract the meaning, we should go to each element. So that can be also considered in prejudice and bias. So we can give conclusion if we have enough and we see different horizons, different perspectives in life. So other example, an ex-convict will do no good. So everything or everyone can change. So that is prejudice. Someone who has status is a bad person. So it is generalized idea which can be not true to all. So Tom has a lot of boyfriends. Is he gay? Is he gay? So meaning when you say Tom has a lot of boyfriends, meaning even though he might not have some girlfriends, he can be a straight one. So it is generalizing or it is giving a head judgment without prior or without enough study. So Mrs. de Guzman is a rich politician. She got her wealth from corruption. So it doesn't mean that if a politician becomes rich, it doesn't mean that she got it from the budget of the country or budget of the place. She is having her administration, but everyone can be rich based on what we have, based on maximizing what we have, like studying, having business, but not purely from being a politician. So prejudice can make the victim feel less than fully human. When people are undervalued by others, their self-esteem suffer and they stop trying to improve themselves. This often leads to bullying and other forms of discrimination. So, when I say prejudices, discrimination really follows. So we should not underestimate or undervalue other people, because if we do not want to feel it, so we should not do it to other people. So that is a golden rule. So bias and prejudice are closely related. If we do not avoid or reduce them, they will greatly create a negative effect to our lives and to others. So the differences between the two: bias, one-sided, preference or favoritism; negative and positive, unfairness. So when we say bias, you should remember that it's preference of someone they idolize, or it's someone's favorite. Then when you say prejudice, you are generalizing all. Unfavorable feelings towards people, negative attitudes, or discrimination. So when you say prejudice, it's more on negative. When we say bias, it can be positive or negative. So overcoming negative bias and prejudice can help improve our perspectives and develop personality. So that is why fairness is really important and essential for us to have, especially in our mankind, in our society, because it's impartial and just treatment of a behavior without favoritism or discrimination. So when we say fairness, you are not judging immediately, you are giving enough or due process before making a decision or before giving a conclusion. So equality, being equal in status, rights, and opportunities. So when we can be not equal in terms of societal or economic status by the money that we have, we cannot be equal by that. But in terms of giving rights that everyone should have, we should be equal. So ways to avoid and reduce bias and prejudice: be balanced, meaning always know the sides of the stories. You should not focus on one side, but you should go to the different perspectives of a subject. So be objective, do not let emotions interfere with judgment. Being subjective will have an unfair outcome. Always deal with facts and not opinions. So be objective, meaning you will see it as a whole, not only with yourself, with your own emotions. So as much as possible, we should set away our emotions and focus on what is fact and not with the opinion. So have an open mind. Though there is a need to deal with facts, consider the opinions and thoughts of the people around us. Inputs from other sources are also needed. So we should be open-minded that there are also other information which are fact, which are considered, and not only things that we have. So we can also use other information from other sources because they can be also helpful for us. So we should be open-minded and not only with the things that we know. Develop empathy, do not blame people, learn how to understand and share the feelings and emotions of others. So we should know how to understand and feel what they feel. So respect, the most important thing is we need to respect the individuality of everyone. Our differences make us a unique and special human beings. So, excuse me. So when we say respect, it is giving enough consideration to their opinions, to their stand, even though they have different beliefs than us. So by respecting them, they will respect you also. So if there is respect, we can avoid negativities such as prejudice, such as bias. Even though you have different viewpoints, still, if you have respect, we can promote fairness and equality. So now we will have the independent activity. So for independent activity number 1, study the pictures below, then identify if it depicts bias or prejudice. Write your answers on a separate sheet of paper. So you will just write prejudice or bias, so based on what we have discussed. So for independent assessment 1, go back to the illustration independent activity 1, determine what type of bias and prejudice is presented. So for example, here in number 1, so what can we see here? Why are they ignoring me? Do I look strange and different? Like that. Nobody wants me. This one. And this. So you will identify the main theme or the topic in each illustration based on the choices we have here. Is it about age discrimination, about religious prejudice, workplace, racial, selection prejudice, bullying, or gender bias? So you will identify, you will just choose. So your answers will be coming from here. So independent activity number 2, you will just draw a smiling face if it's a positive bias, then sad face if negative bias. So a while ago I explained what's the difference between the two. So when you say positive bias, it is about you're showing good points about something without neglecting, without saying negative things to other choices. When you say negative bias, you are showing your preference, your favoritism in a way that you are degrading other choices. So for example, you are saying that the most beautiful place is your hometown. So that is negative bias because you are saying that the other people or the other hometown, the other places are not. So that is negative. You are degrading other choices, while positive bias doesn't. So for independent assessment number 2, below are the lines from the poem Work. Give your reaction to the biases and prejudice below by agreeing or disagreeing, then justify your answer. Write your answer on a separate sheet of paper. So it will be your own answer, your own reflection about those stanzas. So are you agree? You will write first, I am agree or I am disagree, then your explanation why. And for activity number 3, read the story below, then answer the questions that follow. Write your answers on a separate sheet of paper. So you will read this, entitled Scammed by Cinderella L. de Guzman. So number 1, which of the following are positive traits of the character? Write all possible answers on your paper. So what do you think is the positive characteristic of the character in the story that you have read? So you will just choose among these choices. So we have 10. Any of the following which are related to the character in the story, and then you will write it on your answer sheet. So number 2, pick out lines from the story that show the character exhibits bias and prejudice. Write all possible answers on your paper. So you will just copy the lines from the story that you have read that show bias and prejudice. So number 3, if you're Ella's friend, what pieces of advice would you give her about her experience? Write a 3-sentence paragraph on your paper. Refer to the rubric below for paragraph writing. So your advice for Ella. So completion, meaning you really have followed the given directions respectively. So you will have 2 points. Cohesion or oneness. There is a grammatically correct and applied proper paragraph structure. There is indentation, margin, so 3 points. Then content, if it's really helpful advice, if it is really effective advice, and morally right, or sorry, if it's moral of the story, or it is connected to the moral of the story or the lesson, then 5 points. So all in all, it will be 10 points. So independent assessment number 3, study the following illustrations. Write some common bias and prejudice which can associate with them. Write your sentence on your paper. So based on the illustrations that we have here, the man with tattoos, the big hand for the lady, then like that. So you will have your bias. What do you think is the bias that you can think, the prejudice that you can think from those illustrations that we have? So what I have learned, so you will complete the Venn diagram about bias and prejudice based on what we have discussed a while ago. Then sentence, you will just describe what you have written in the Venn diagram. So what I can do, you have learned a lot. At this point, apply your newly gained knowledge and skills into action by creating a poster slogan. So when you say poster slogan, inside the poster there is a slogan. There are words or sentence which will describe about some subject. For example, it's all about fairness and equality. So you can make a sentence with rhyming words to make it more appealing. Then you will draw particular objects, ideas as the background of that sentence. So that is combination of slogan and poster. So you should do that and it will serve as your performance task. It's all about fairness and quality. So you will make a poster slogan based on fairness and quality. So we have examples here. So as you can see, there are words, there is sentence about equality. Then you will draw some objects, some ideas that will be connected to what you have written. So we have here the rubric. So attractiveness, if it's appealing, then it will be 5 points. Then creativity or uniqueness, it can be 5 points. Content, accuracy, if it's connected to the subject, which is about equality and fairness, 5 points. Then graphic relevance. So all of the ideas you have included in your slogan poster or poster slogan are all connected to one another to have unity and oneness of the thought. So the assessment, you will write bias or prejudice until 1 to 10. If it's bias or prejudice, then a whole heart, you will draw a whole heart if it is showing fairness and equality, and a broken heart if it's unfair or unequal. So we can see based on the illustrations here. Then for the last one, additional activity, list down 5 biases or prejudices. Then suggestion that we will find ways on how you can correct those bias and prejudice that you can still observe up until nowadays. For example, about racism or the black people, about white people. So what is your suggestion to correct those judgments? So you will have 5. So we are done with our module number 1 for the 3rd quarter. So I hope you learned about the differences between the two. And we should always promote equality and fairness, because at the end of the day, if we are done living in this world, it's not about what we have, it's not about what we achieved, but it's about how we interacted with, how we socialized with other people with sincere and truthful heart. So that's all. Keep safe and God bless. If you have questions, you are free to message your English teacher.